Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the Culture Dome, brought to you by Young Boss Media. We are here with our very exciting guest, Sophia Chang, the first Asian woman of hip hop. Also coming out with her book, The Baddest Bitch in the Room. So this is going to be a very exciting day because we got all sorts of stuff coming up for you that I definitely want to get to, right? And as always, we chat a little bit about what's been going on.
Perfect.
Just so people can kind of get to know who you are outside of the stuff, the plugs and all the other good stuff.
Okay.
So something that's been going on, I didn't even know if I wanted to talk about this because it's been talked about to death.
Okay.
Was, T.I. went on a podcast.
Okay.
And it's called Ladies Like Us. So there's a viral uproar online because he said that he goes with his daughter after every birthday to the gynecologist to see if her hymen is still intact, to see if she's a virgin, and sort of talks to her about signing the consent form in front of the doctor, and he's like, well, if you have nothing to hide, why won't you sign it? And so she just turned 18. He sort of had an interview about it. There was a podcast. Everybody had an opinion. Most people's opinion was that it was kind of gross, and that sort of policing your daughter's virginity is not something that they were down for, especially not at 18 years old. So, I was reluctant to bring it up. There's very strong opinions about it. Some people who think if that was my kid, I would totally get that. I'd be there too. Some people who think, there's two parts to it. One is that he does it, and the other is that he went on a podcast and told everybody that he does it, which is slightly more mortifying than I think just doing it in the first place, because then all of a sudden now everybody knows that that happens for your daughter, who's a grown little person in the world going to college next year. So what are your thoughts? What do you think about that?
Well, I think I have two questions.
Sure.
First, is the hymen remaining intact even proof of virginity?
So that's the real sort of like scientific issue with this, right? Is that it isn't necessarily even,
because what if you use a tampon?
You could use a tampon, you could ride a horse, you could do the splits.
Right.
Like it could literally be anything.
Right, and my second question would be, if you had a son.
Which he does.
And if there was a test to see whether or not he was a virgin, and you could take him to a doctor and put his dick in some machine that told you whether, am I allowed to curse?
You're allowed to curse.
Okay, whether or not he had fucked, would you apply the same standard to your son? My guess is no.
Right.
So I think that it is an egregious manifestation of patriarchy.
Yeah.
And the notion, look, would I like to know what my daughter is doing because of her safety? Of course I would. But I think that this plays into a narrative which I have such an issue with. If you watch my new Instagram hit series, Suck a Dick, the first one is about
wonderful name.
The purity test. Thank you. Right? And the purity test, in terms of sexual activity, is only applied to women. So there's a bigger conversation to be had. T.I. as a rapper, I love him, I think he's great. But in terms of, and I would also be very curious to know how engaged was her mother in this process.
That's what I was kind of wondering too, because I'm like, her mother is involved. We all know that that's true. So it's an interesting thought, right? Because I think if I had a daughter with somebody, just as a woman, hearing that was something we're going to do annually, I'd be like,
I would no.
Hell no. That's not going to be the way we go about.
Yeah, if I'm not together with the father of my children, and my daughter is 17, about to turn 18.
Okay, so
if he proposed that, I would say, first of all, he wouldn't. He is not that man. I would say, no fucking way, no way. And I would pose the question, would you do the same thing for our son?
Yeah.
I find it. It sounds like The Handmaid's Tale to me. It sounds scarily like 18th century to me, right? This notion, like the, what is that thing called? The chastity belt, right?
Oh, right.
All of these things, and I am dismayed.
Yeah.
And I am on top of that, not that I give a shit about it, but I am on top of that amazed that this is something that he talked about My guess is, I haven't seen the video, my guess is that he did not talk about it in a confessional way.
Right.
Meaning he wasn't like, okay, I have
Ashamed
to,
of himself, right.
I have to admit that I did this thing. My guess is that, you know, he's a man, he's a rapper, he's popular, he's, you know, all of those things. So there is a certain amount of power that comes with that, right?
Right.
My guess is that he announced it in a way, maybe he wasn't necessarily proud of it, but in a very matter-of-fact way of like, yeah, this is what the fuck I do with my daughter.
Well, the hard part is that even the host of the podcast ended up having to apologize because people were so offended that it was so light and they were kind of so jokingly talking about it in the first place.
Was the host of the podcast a man?
No, it's two women.
And they, what was their response?
So they basically said that they were completely caught, this is their quote when people called them out later, that they were completely caught off guard and shocked, and looking back, they should have reacted much differently, but they laughed and they joked with T.I. and continued to sort of dig a deeper hole, asking about more details and asking more about the doctor-patient interaction between the two of them when they go.
Well, like,
and you know, the hard part of it is that it's as antiquated as it sounds, there's a lot of people who were like, well, that's good parenting.
I get it.
Right.
And I'm sure, right.
The hard part of it is that he's not unique in that perspective that he needs to protect his daughter's virginity, which also kind of takes away the conversation of like maybe your daughter might want to have sex for her own reasons.
Right. And
outside
also,
of those things.
just me as his daughter, I'm fucking mortified now because
That's
it
what
means
I was like, if my dad,
annually, what did he say? That annually I'm
after her
sitting there with
birthday.
my fucking feet in the stirrups. My vagina's wide open, and whatever the fuck the gynecologist is doing to figure out whether or not my hymen is intact, like it just feels so incredibly invasive to me. This is what I will say as a parent. I have a 19-year-old son and a 17-year-old daughter. What is more important to me than the preservation of either of their virginity, and I'm not saying that I wouldn't want them to be safe around that, is that they are good people, and that I have raised them in such a way that they will use their good judgment to make those decisions. Yeah. I would also like to know, is he simultaneously having a conversation with his daughter and his son, which I have had, about female pleasure, right? Because this is not something that people talk about. You know, boys, a fucking breeze comes along and they're coming. Well, that's fucking great for you, right? But for women, it typically takes a little bit more work. So, you know, that conversation in isolation, you know, what a father does with what anybody does within the household, of course, is their business, and how they parent is their business. Right. However, he's chosen to make this public, right? So I am grateful that this is public because I hope that this puts into the ether that we have a conversation, but I would like to broaden it, is what I'm saying.
Of course.
Right? So to me, it's not specifically about his daughter. God bless his daughter, right? To me, again, it is about patriarchy. It is about a purity test. It is about, would you ask your son the same question? And it is also about broadening it even more, like, have you talked to your daughter about pleasure? Right.
Are there two sides of the conversation? Yes. Right. Yeah. And I mean, that's sort of there's all sorts of stuff, the pleasure activism, the dilemmas of desire. There's all sorts of books sort of out there about that issue of just sort of erasing the pleasure aspect of sex for women.
For women, yeah.
So, absolutely. You know, hopefully when people hear you on Suck a Dick, we'll get a deeper understanding of it.
One of the upcoming episodes is definitely about men who don't really think about a woman's pleasure.
Hey. Well, hopefully they start. I would love if that trend started, advocating for that one. Anyway, so moving on to lighter things. So they're doing something interesting, and I'm actually interested to hear about your opinion about this as a mom, because I know you have two teenagers who I'm sure, do they have Instagrams?
They do.
So the owner of Instagram said that they're testing out hiding likes, so that when you see posts that you can't actually see how many people like them automatically.
Right.
So he said that it's not going to impact everybody at once, but what they're trying to do is depressurize the platform for young users so that they can feel like less of a competition and more of a space to focus on connecting with people that they love and things that inspire them. That's a direct quote from Masori, who owns the company. Now, it's interesting, though, also because they also monetize likes.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. So
how?
So there's influencers. This is like the new group of monetized people. they not only give you more money based on how many people follow you, but
Right.
how many people you can get to like a post in an hour.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, okay, right.
So
I
if-
thought you meant that Instagram somehow the more likes somebody gets, they themselves are making more money. You
Oh,
mean
no.
Right, the influencers themselves.
The influencers
Sure.
are making more money, and then also in your news feed, you're seeing people who people like more often.
Yeah.
So hiding the like kind of is like a double-sided thing, because there is a back end to it,
Right.
where people are getting paid and things are getting ordered in a certain way based
Right.
on them.
Yeah.
And so this is something that is supposedly supposed to be helping people out, right?
And is the idea to roll it out and eventually it will be a blanket platform?
If it
will be
works,
blanket across
or
the
if it's,
platform.
or maybe just for younger users, I think might be the idea. If people are under a certain age, that they won't be able to see.
Interesting.
I don't know how.
How do I feel about that? I mean,
Because I don't know if the likes are really the thing that's making people feel better or worse, but it might actually be the reason people are using it, which is
I was
kind of
gonna say,
ironic.
for me, to be frank, I don't give a shit what anybody else is doing on Instagram. I do not go down the Instagram rabbit hole to see what people are doing. I've never looked at my ex. I don't give a fuck what he's doing on Instagram. If I want to know, I'll just call him up. I never have the like, oh my God, I wish I had that life. Instagram is my television channel. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm only interested in presenting myself and then seeing how people respond. So for me, the likes are important. For
Yeah.
me, the comments are important.
Okay.
For my daughter, so if I look at it through the lens of of a mother of a 17-year-old girl, I think that it is hard to reverse engineer this. In other words, to back into something, because Instagram is now seeing how harmful social media can be.
Right.
And, to now take that away, I agree with you. I think that for many people, a big part of the whole platform and social media, because it is social, is to see how many people have liked it. I mean, it started with Facebook.
Right. And some
Right?
people will take a whole post down if nobody likes it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, so like I archive my stuff all the time. I'm constantly going through, and the stuff that people have viewed less, I'll just take it out because it's clearly of less interest, because I curate it really, really tightly. I do understand, though, that for certain young folks, and frankly older folks, but young folks in particular, right, who are particularly socially vulnerable, right? And so for me, I don't give a shit, right? I'm like, oh, that only got 6 likes. Okay, this one got 600. I'm not going to bed and crying at night. But I completely understand how that could absolutely impact somebody in such a deleterious way.
Yeah.
So I understand the notion of it. Would I tell them that they should enact it? Beta it?
Well, they're going to try it.
Try it.
They're trying it in other countries to see what the impact is, just to see if it helps or hurts or...
I'm curious to see, but for my daughter herself, if you ask me about my daughter specifically, Jan Hongshe, would I say, please take off the likes? No.
Wouldn't really.
But I also know that I know my daughter. Again, she is the girl that I don't fucking have to test her hymen, right? Whether or not she's a virgin is not the point.
Right, exactly.
The point is that I feel like I have raised a good, kind, just person who makes well-informed decisions. I don't know everything, but that's much more important to me.
So I'm glad that we actually did talk about that, because, your daughter sounds pretty dope.
She's amazing. Thank you.
So something interesting, and we're actually talking about something similar. In South Carolina, a restaurant manager just got arrested because they found out that he was enslaving a black worker who was intellectually disabled for the last 5, they're saying 5 years, but really the kid came in at 12 years old in 1990 and had been working for him since then, and they just arrested him, and they sentenced him to 10 years. And the guy who was enslaved by him is now in his early 40s. He dropped out of school, he took up a full-time job at the restaurant, and then eventually they took away the pay. He started beating him. He started beating him with a belt and making him work 100 hours a week. And so they sentenced this man to 10 years in prison.
What was the charge? Endangerment of, what was it?
I don't even know what they charged him with for enslavement, for forcible enslavement, but 10 years, I guess, is the punishment for, 2019 for like...
Is he white?
Yeah. A white
what
restaurant
state?
owner in South Carolina.
I mean, what can you say about that? I mean, it's like making me sick to my stomach. It makes me want to cry. It is so devastating.
It's also representative of kind of an issue in this country in terms of visibility.
Yeah, and yet it's not shocking, right? I'm not sitting here going, oh, how could that ever? I mean, I think the shock factor has worn off on a lot of things, right? The shock factor on unarmed black men and black women getting shot by the police. The shock factor, sadly, is gone because we are now clearly aware of the fact that this is a fucking epidemic, right? It's not like, that's so weird, it happened. No. It's not a coincidence, it's an epidemic. And, you know, I mean, I think anybody that's a fucking sentient being that has half a brain understands that there are two justice systems. You know, and I have been thinking a lot since I wrote my memoir about visibility and erasure. And I think that any of us who live on the margins are not even under the constant threat of erasure, but living with the impact of erasure. You know, you think about white picket fences and how they start off pristine, and then as weather and rain and dirt and everything, and then we just have to maintain how pristine and white they are, and we just have to keep doing that. To me, this is the visual that comes into my head when I think about erasure. And it's not a surprise that it's a white picket fence. So, you know, there are so many ways in which, what's his name, the victim?
His name is Smith. They're just referring to him as Smith. Oh. Yeah, they're just referring to him as Smith in the story, which is terrible.
That's his last name?
Yes,
well, Smith. Mr. Smith, my heart breaks for him.
Yeah. And in his 40s, I mean.
And his life has he's been robbed of a life.
Yeah.
And, you know, if the sentence.
And they said that he even dipped metal tongs into hot grease and burned his neck.
Yeah, he was a sadist too.
Yeah, just brutalizing him.
How many years did Mr. Smith work for him from when he was
12 years old in 1990 until this year?
Okay, so that's almost 30 years.
Yeah, almost 30 years of enslavement.
So the notion that, in the scales of justice.
And his name is John Christopher Smith. They pulled it up for me.
Okay, John Christopher Smith. The notion that John Christopher Smith has essentially had 30 years of his life taken from him. And not just taken from him, but he's been brutalized.
Right.
And that when the justice system says, how do we penalize the person that stole those 30 years? And on top of that, exacerbated it with violence and trauma. Because how fucking long is it going to take John Christopher Smith to heal?
Yeah.
Right? So it's not just those 30 years.
And so they're giving him 10 years and $500,000 in damages.
So 10 years and $500,000. If the justice system is telling me that that's what this man's life is worth.
And it's not even one-to-one, right? Literally, this man was enslaved by him for 30 years.
Yeah.
And they gave this man 10.
Right.
Like, you could have just given him 1 year per year he enslaved. The most basic logic of it.
Right.
But then it's like, even that doesn't seem.
Right. And then the question for me would always be, let's turn the tables. So if we found out that it was a white man or a white woman who had been brutally enslaved and tortured.
I can't
even
imagine.
Right?
I can't even imagine.
Then what would the sentence be for a black man or a black woman who had subjected him to this horrible pain, right? And then the other question is, would it have even been able to go for 30 years?
Right. Who would have said something in South Carolina, especially at that?
Exactly.
If there was a white person and a black restaurant owner.
Yeah.
Oh goodness, I can't even imagine. They'd be in prison for life, for sure.
It's like I do every.
It'd be a Lifetime
every day,
movie.
I do hashtag. What if Obama did this?
Like
every day I'm
There's
like,
never not
what
a
if
moment
Obama
with Trump where you're like, this guy would be impeached if this was Obama, but
long ago.
And so, just a crazy thing going on. And something else that I just want to call out because it's happening in New York City, they just found in August on 165 Henry Street. I'm like actually putting out the address. They split 2 rentable condos into 18 apartments that they rented out to people.
Is Henry in Financial in FiDi?
Yeah, so it's downside on the Lower East Side.
Oh,
So
Henry. Shit, Henry's down by me then. Oh,
Yeah,
fuck,
so it's
I'm bugging. Henry's right by me.
So it's right downtown on the Lower East Side. They found out that these two landlords had split 2 condos into 18. So they horizontally split the condos. They were 6 feet tall. They were between 4.5 and 6 feet tall, and they split them up into 18 condos where people had been living and paying them rent. And they just discovered this in August. And so I'm just putting it out there because this is something in New York City that's representative of a real predatory, messed up issue that's kind of been happening. And I didn't hear this story anywhere at all. I just randomly found it so we play a conspiracy theory game in this, which we will get to later. And I was looking for conspiracies, and I was like, I should do this during the conspiracy game and see if she thinks this is real. But then I was like, nah, we should really just talk about this because New York is, people were paying $400 a month to live in cubbies because people can't live anywhere in the city. And it's mostly immigrants and people who are undocumented who were there.
So it's $7,200 a month for
the landlords.
Yeah. And it was 2 different spaces, so they would have been $3,600 a month. I don't understand how they couldn't get $3,600 a month for 2 separate spaces. They must have been time. Do you know what I'm saying?
They said that they were putting families in corners. They weren't renting them out to one person.
Right, but I'm saying, so they had 2 units.
So within the 18 units, there's different people sharing corners of those units and paying them rent. So it's multi-family units within the 18 units.
Oh, so it's not just 18
it's
times 400.
It's not just 18 people, right?
I understand.
Which is even more, so even more than that. So it was, I'm sure, really not even grossly that much more worth it, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's right by where I live. It's, on the one hand, the magnanimity and capacity for love and empathy in humans inspires me every day, and it's beautiful. And the flip side of that coin, because there are always 2 sides to that coin, is the capacity for greed. And that, the desire for money, the desire for power, can lead people to do evil things, like straight up evil things. And because I'm not somebody who is motivated by money or power, it is so hard for me to get an into that. Like I can see the beauty of when people do things to uplift others. Like I would like to think that I'm somebody that participates in this. But when I come across people that behave in this way, I don't have an in.
Yeah.
Because it seems like there's a pathology there. It almost seems sociopathic in a way that I really don't.
Can't even get it.
Absolutely.
Can't even walk around in that mind.
That's really devastating.
So we're going to come back with some more of your stuff, of more of the light and love and uplifting stuff about you and sort of your history with Wu-Tang and your new book, right? So we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we're going to be here with Sophia Chang talking about the baddest bitch in the room and all the wonderful things about being in New York in the hip-hop scene when it just sort of was fresh.
Yeah.
And we'll be right back on the Culture Dome, brought to you by Young Boss Media.
Hello everyone, my name is Jamel Henderson, the host of the Vanguard television show here at Young Boss Media TV. If you want to be interested in finding out a little bit more of who I am and the work that I'm doing, please take the time to go on my website at www.jamelhenderson.com. Look forward to interacting with you. Have a wonderful day.
And welcome back. We are here with Sophia Chang on the Culture Dome, brought to you by Young Boss Media. And so we're going to get into a little bit more of sort of what you've been up to.
Okay.
I know the baddest bitch in the room is kind of the topic of the moment, obviously.
Yes.
Plug, plug, plug. So that's a book. It's also going to be available on Audible.
It is available on Audible, yep.
And so it sounds like there's so much packed in there, so much personal sort of touches. What do you think is the most important thing for people to know? Like if you are telling people about the baddest bitch in the room.
About the
book.
About the audiobook. Oh God, that's so hard to limit to one thing. In terms of the book itself, the audiobook itself and the production, I have created a unique, unprecedented 360 immersive experience. So
Yeah.
I have combined the author's voice, 25 guest voices, sound design, original score, and licensed music. No one has ever done this before.
How did you choose the voices? How did
Because
you
it's
sort
the
of,
people.
So it's just the people in, in
That's
your
right.
story.
So I have 6 members of Wu-Tang. I have all 3 surviving members of A Tribe Called Quest. I have Joey Badass, G Herbo, John Woo, Jim Jarmusch, Michael. My family, my mother's
Yes.
in there, my children, and my brother in there. And I knew, because I've worked so long in music, and I've managed composers, I knew that I could create something that nobody had ever done before. And anything I do has to be subversive. And I knew I could fucking turn that industry upside down. And I know that what's going to happen now is people are going to go, oh shit, why didn't I think of that?
Yes, I was going to say, it seems so logical, right?
So
a story
logical,
that's told
right.
by the people who are in the story. Absolutely.
Exactly. And I've raised the bar. And I'll take my Grammy now.
Just hearing that, hearing that makes it sound interesting. I don't
Yeah.
even care what they're saying.
Exactly.
I'm just like, oh, I want to see I want to hear the characters now.
I feel like it's this really kind of organic, integrated experience. But in terms of the story itself, I mean, I'm the first Asian woman in hip hop. I met a Shaolin monk, left the music business, had kids with him, ran his business, came back after that fell apart. And really, my memoir is for anybody who has ever felt undervalued, underheard, underseen, for anybody who was ever told no but still went for the yes, for anybody who has the audacity to tell their own stories in the face of all of that. That's who it's for. And I really hope that it inspires people, particularly women and women of color, to mine their beauty, to mine their power and see their beauty, because the dominant culture doesn't ever tell us that.
Mine their power.
Yeah,
I love
mine
that
your
phrase.
power like it's there. You just
Have that and earth it.
That's right.
Wonderful. And I mean, for you, that's more than just sort of saying that. You're living,
Yeah.
that is your story. The idea that you are Canadian, you know, coming with a degree
French
here
lit
from
major,
French
yeah.
lit. You come in 1987 to New York City on the hip hop scene,
Yeah.
right? And I know that I've heard you say that you found it daunting. I know you said that you felt sort of out of place,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And in all of that, still, right, that something about hearing
Yeah.
the song The Message, something about hip hop for you led your spirit in the direction of just go with it, right? Which doesn't even sound like the plan in any way, because French lit doesn't sound at all like I'm prepping to do some hip hop.
And trust me, my parents weren't like, there's this emerging, music, and maybe you. No.
That wasn't their dream for you.
I had to tell my parents what hip hop was, and that's okay.
So when did you sort of decide, okay, I think that I'm going to change paths and really go after this?
So, for sure, the song that changed my life was The Message by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. There was an urgency, an anger, and a pride to it that really resonated with me. And as I wrote the memoir and as I talked about it, and as I talked about my interaction with the song in particular, I believe that part of it is that all the representations I had seen of people of color across the board was Hollywood, right?
Right.
Or magazines. And all of that is through the white male lens. And so, and I didn't grow up on a tradition of R&B. So hip hop, suddenly I hear a person of color telling their own story. Now, there's no way I could articulate it as such. Of course not. I just know that it resonated with me. There was the beats, there was the lyrics, but now I understand that I think that that was part of the appeal and why it was so compelling to me. And once I moved, now I didn't necessarily move to New York with the idea that I wanted to infiltrate the hip hop scene. It was that I knew that I wanted to be out of Vancouver, that I wanted to try something new and let me see what else is out there.
Okay.
As a French major, naturally, I thought about Paris, and then I went to France and I met the French, and I was like, I'm not doing this. And then I came to New York, and as a French would say, j'étais comme poisson dans l'eau, which means I was like a fish to water.
Okay.
And, you know, part of me being in hip hop was that hip hop welcomed me.
Well, tell me about it, because I can't even imagine. 1987.
Yeah.
hip hop.
So the scene is small.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that was so beautiful about the hip hop scene in 1987, and that is, it is still relatively nascent in terms of an industry, not as an art form, but an industry. And we were all so excited by what we were hearing and feeling and seeing, so every sector of the industry would be in the same place, right? The clubs, the New Music Seminar, any of these places. So you had all the artists. So you had the MCs, the DJs, the graph artists, and the B-boys, right? But you also had the A&R people, the attorneys, the publicists, the managers, the agents. Everybody was there, so it was this very close-knit community. And I wouldn't say that it was insular. I would say that it was extremely welcoming.
Okay.
And for me, as a little yellow girl, particularly one who wanted to be white, right? To be welcome into this world, yes, it was daunting. Yes, I felt like, do I really belong here? But hip hop told me that I did. And that's a gift. And that's a privilege. You know, I would never take for granted, I was never entitled to be there because hip hop was not of my making at all. And hip hop said, come here, Soph.
Was it hard for you to take in at first? That sort of...
The embrace?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. I don't think so because it was so fulsome.
Okay.
And it was so genuine. You know, like Crazy Legs, who founded the Rocksteady crew, always tells the story of us being out at a club and him looking across the room and going, who is that little Asian girl that knows every single word to the Brand Nubian song, Step to the Rear? And it was me, and I was just like in this world of like, holy fuck, like there is this amazing thing happening. And I felt so drawn to the music, and I'm also a French lit major. And so to me, it was literature, it's poetry.
Right.
And so I had studied words. And so it resonated for me at that level as well. And, you know, somebody like Crazy Legs or somebody like DJ Scratch from EPMD, like they took me in immediately. And they're titans of the industry. They're legends and icons of the industry. And so having that co-sign was something. And then my proximity to native tongues,
Okay.
you know, Tribe Called Quest, Jungle, De La, Latifah, Moni, that was another step. But then it was really Wu-Tang,
Yeah.
you know, because hip hop embraced me, but Wu-Tang claimed me.
And so for you, the first person that you met in Wu-Tang Clan was who?
Was RZA.
RZA.
Yeah.
And so I know that you started in A&R.
Yeah, at Jive.
At Jive, which is like really its own little impressive chapter that we just kind of like can gloss over. But this is like Jive Records, Jazzy Jeff, Fresh Prince, Tribe Called Quest,
BDP,
Too Short,
Too Short,
E40.
yeah.
Like this is no light list either. These are heavyweights of their time as well.
Yeah.
So like, we're not even talking, we're starting some like little like, oh, well, you know, I was working and going to the clubs and people were saying, like that's nice, but that's not all that was really happening. And then, so somewhere in there, you meet RZA.
Yes, so I heard the demo, the Wu-Tang demo, Protect Your Neck, Tears, and Method Man were the 3 songs on the demo. But there's no way that we were gonna sign him because he famously asked for a non-exclusive deal, which means that the solo members had the option to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
Now, no label in the world ever gave out that deal, and I'm pretty sure nobody's ever done it since. But he was so smart, and he also understood the weight of what he had and that he had so much leverage. So he got signed, Wu-Tang got signed to another label, and then another demo came around for the Gravediggers, which was the group that he started with Prince Paul, who was the kind of the creative impetus behind a tribe called, De La Soul. And this group I could sign. And so I immediately set up a meeting and I met him. I wasn't able to sign them, but you know, I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember what the weather was, what I was wearing, where we went to eat, what I ate. Like, you know, it was really stunning because to me, RZA is so many things. So he is a producer, extraordinary.
Right.
He is an MC, amazing. He is also an entrepreneur. He is also a devout student of world cultures. And to me, he is also a philosopher. And I always say that RZA is the Bruce Lee of hip hop. And what that means is that Bruce Lee studied the traditions. And then he said, I'm going to take all this, and I don't disrespect any of it, but I'm going to take it and I'm going to shape it to be mine. And then he founded a style of martial arts called Jeet Kune Do. But Bruce Lee was a philosophy major. So in studying martial arts, I studied Shaolin Kung Fu and Chan Buddhism. For me, the truest martial artists are not just martial artists, they also study philosophy. And RZA is a philosopher. I mean, if you read the Tao of Wu, he's a philosopher.
Yeah.
And so maybe all of those things that we can find other producers that are great, who are also MCs that are that great, and also dabble in film and all that kind of stuff, but are any of them actually philosophers? I don't think so. I don't think so. And that has to do with his profound intellectual, cultural, and spiritual curiosity that is bar none as far as I'm concerned.
And there's a lot of people who I know are beyond just RZA as a rapper. RZA as sort of just a speaker and a person in the world. They're very, very about just what he said and who he is as a person in hip hop is beyond. Is beyond just the music.
Absolutely.
And so absolutely. Is that part of what's in the book about your experience with him?
Yes, yes. And really, you know, RZA is the godfather of my children. RZA is still best friends with the father of my children. And it is how he believed in me, how he inspired me, how he supported me, and how he loved me as a friend. And how all of those things, you know, I always say my name is Sophia Chang and I was raised by Wu-Tang. And RZA is no small part of that.
Yeah.
The rest of the guys for sure as well. But RZA holds this unique place in my life. And kind of with every change in my life, whether it's career or falling in love or something, he is always there, and I'm always talking to him about the transitions in my life.
Yeah. And I know you directly managed 3 members of...
I did, all 3 3-letter members.
So we've got ODB.
God rest his soul, yes.
RZA.
RZA, yes.
And GZA.
GZA.
GZA. GZA.
No, RZA and GZA, absolutely, all 3 of them.
So one of the things that I'm really curious about for you, just as a manager, is what were you looking for? As a lover of the poetry, of a lover of the culture, what was it that you sort of would find yourself drawn towards as a manager?
Well, they had to be talented.
Sure.
Right. So on top, in addition to those 3, I also managed Q-Tip, A Tribe Called Quest, Raphael Sadiq, and D'Angelo. Raphael Sadiq and D'Angelo. And to me, they are all geniuses.
Right.
They are geniuses. So that's first and foremost, because even if you said to me, manage this artist, they're going to make you $2 million next year. If they're not a genius, I'm not going to do it. If I don't believe in them fully as artists, I'm not interested. So that was the first thing, is the talent.
Sure.
But the other thing is the promise and what I thought I could do with them, because my personal philosophy behind management is also to do something that expands their platform. So with GZA, I helped him break into lecturing. With RZA, I was part of his transition into Hollywood. And, but it takes a unique artist to do that, because it also means that they're taking a little bit of a risk and they're not just staying in their comfort zone. And then there's the person.
Well, somebody like Old Dirty Bastard, right? He stands out from that group in terms of personality and
Stands
style.
out from any group, yes.
Yeah, right. And so I'm thinking of you managing, if we could really call it that, if he could be managed, ODB. And what was it like for you in terms of the person?
Right.
What do we not know about ODB in terms of how it is to be around him and know him as a human being?
So managing, I called him Ason. Ason Unique is his righteous name, his 5% righteous name.
Okay.
And not that you have to, I'm just saying that that's how I refer to him.
No, but that's actually interesting to know.
I think what people need to know is that I managed Old Dirty Bastard, but I dealt with and loved Ason Unique. And he said to me, you know, Sophie, what I love about you is that when I'm with you, I don't have to be Old Dirty Bastard. I can just be me. And so many, many artists, and there's nothing wrong with this, and it doesn't matter if they do this or not, but many artists have a persona. And then there's the human.
Right.
And the human, look, in terms of an artist, he's extraordinary. As an MC, as a performer, like, he's incredible.
Right.
And yes, of course, managing Old Dirty Bastard is kind of oxymoronic, and there was a lot of damage control. However, the man, he was so smart. And I don't know that people know that. He was so smart. He was so funny. Like, we would just, whether we're driving in a car, whether we're hanging out at my apartment listening to old school R&B, which was his favorite.
Oh.
We would just be talking and laughing, and it was so tender and intimate. We were really close friends. And he was so loyal. He was so protective. Like, God forbid, as are all of the guys, right? God forbid anybody should step to me or be untoward or try to flirt with me. Like, him and his crew, like, shut that shit down immediately. But what I would want people to know is that what a man, what a man, what a man, what a mighty good man. He was an extraordinary human being, and I miss him every day.
Wow. Just take a moment.
Every day.
Just a moment for ODB, right?
Yeah.
Very son. Which is the other sort of, that's the real person, it sounds like, that you sort of miss.
I used to call him A, you know, and it was kind of code. Because if I'm yelling, like, we would be backstage, we'd be in the back of an arena, and I could just go, A, and he would know it was me, right? And other people don't have to know that I'm calling out Old Dirty Bastard. Like, I could just say, A, and it was like it was like a dog whistle. It was like it shot through the air, and he was like, Sophie needs me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of beautiful.
Yeah, it was really
It's almost like
amazing.
a secret code, right?
Exactly. So
And
we had this
it almost makes you wonder, a protective sort of band of brothers around you, clan, literal clan of brothers around
9
you.
of them, yeah.
What is the experience for you of being a woman in that scene?
I think, particularly as a petite Asian woman, you know, as being kind of this outlier, and for all of the things that me and my sisters are subjected to, right? We are exoticized, we are eroticized, and we are fetishized.
Sure.
So I think that other Asian women probably had different experiences than I did, but again, the way that I was embraced by hip hop, the way that I frankly comported myself. I've never been drunk, I've never been high, which means I've also never been sloppy. And I am always taking care of business. And you know, Jim Jarmusch in my manuscript says, we've got Sophia Chang and she's the glue. Like, everybody will tell you, I took care of business, right? And then, to be claimed by Wu-Tang, you know, it's like there was this sea of people, thousands of people, and they just went, and put me in their breast pocket, and they just kept me there. And everybody knew. So it wasn't like this secret thing like, oh, Wu-Tang, I'm really close with the guy. No, everybody fucking knew. That's Sophia Chang, and she's down with Wu-Tang. Do not fuck with her. Do not try to talk to her. Do not touch her. Because I have this amazing army, this Shaolin army of 9 bodyguards who are like, she's ours. She's ours. Yeah. And I'm due to this day.
Which says enough, really.
Yeah.
If you could have known in 1987 that in 2019,
that
this
friendships
would absolutely still be.
Yeah, that the friendships would endure. I mean, it's been 26 years, you know, and I actually talked to Ray and Ghost about this, and Ghost was like, Soph, all those motherfuckers from 25 years ago, I don't talk to them. I barely even know their names. But you're here with me, sitting on my couch in my hotel room. You're here. And that's significant.
What is it like to have all that happening and then become a mother and go through all these changes that seem like these
all of that, right. So all of that's happening. I'm managing Dirty in 95, and then I meet my ex February 10th, 1995, and I'm like, oh, I'm out.
Really?
Yeah, and I just cold, hard, and I left the music business because I knew that's my future right there. Literally the day I met him, I went home and I called my parents and I met the man I'm going to marry.
Wow.
Number one. And I also just knew that.
How'd you know?
I don't know.
It was
the second
just
time that it happened to me.
knowing. Yeah. Okay.
And it wasn't this like floating on a lotus blossom and the rose petals are falling. It was very empirical. As much as I can say, those are black pants, I knew.
Wow.
And it was really a gift. And he didn't know. He thought I was a 16-year-old boy, an odd little one at that, because he spoke Mandarin, I spoke English, and my girlfriend had to translate for us.
Oh.
But I left the music business because I believed so much in him and his vision to replicate the Shaolin Temple in America.
Wow.
And that became my new passion.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that says a lot about your value system too, even that was so compelling for you.
It was so compelling, but you know, Wu-Tang brought me to him, right? Because I never watched Kung Fu movies before Wu-Tang. I didn't think Asian men were attractive before Wu-Tang.
So they actually brought more.
Yes. Oh no, it was completely like, I'm a yellow girl, and my family's yellow, and I speak Korean, and then I'm getting raised in Vancouver, and I'm a yellow girl that wants to be white, and then I get to New York, and I hear hip-hop, and I understand that there's another way to be, and then I listen to Wu-Tang Clan, and they introduced me back to the beauty and the power of my culture, and then through that I go,
power.
Exactly, they help me mine my power, exactly, and then I study Kung Fu, and I meet the man, the mighty love of my life, and
Wow.
we didn't formally marry, but we essentially partner, and we have children. So if it wasn't for Wu-Tang Clan, I wouldn't have the two extraordinary children that I do today.
Wow.
Wouldn't. There's no way. I
Wow.
never would have ended up doing
So
Kung Fu.
intertwined.
Yes.
So
So
intertwined.
inextricably linked.
And so for you, what is in the future? What in hip hop? What for you particularly? What's going on?
So I want to be very clear to everybody out there. I don't know which camera to look at. Am I looking at camera 2? Okay. I am not managing anymore. Please do not send me your YouTube videos. Please do not send me your SoundCloud links. Please do not do any of this. I am done managing talent. I am managing myself, the baddest bitch in the room. So what am I doing? I am going to continue to write books. I am going to, public speaking is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to have that mic in my hand to be on a stage. That's what God put me here to do. There's no doubt in my mind, because I know that I can be helpful to people. I am also developing a scripted television show series about myself that I'm really excited about. I just did a bunch of pitches last week.
Oh, nice.
And I will also have, I'll do a one-woman show. I will definitely do, I'm going to be a PGOT. I'm going to win a Pulitzer, an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. I have no doubt about it. Mark my words, I'm
Speak
saying it here.
Sure.
All of it. I'm going to do all of that shit. So this is what happened. I helped extraordinarily talented men tell their stories for 30 years. And then I finally went,
What about me?
I kind of have an interesting story. Maybe it's my turn. And once I decided it was my turn, I swear to God, it's like the dam broke.
Wow.
And there's just this deluge of creativity that's washing over me, and I'm so delighted by it. And I understand now that there is no limit to the ways that I can tell my story. And if I have a message for everybody, particularly those on the margins, tell your story. Tell your story.
Yes.
Because this is how we combat erasure. This is also how we build empathy and community. Because as long as the dominant culture can, they will keep us quiet, they will keep us invisible, and they will keep us apart.
Wow.
So all of my work is about bringing people from the margins into the center.
Wow.
Because the center is where the power resides. The center are the golf games. The center is the cigar rooms. The center is where 8-figure deals are cut. And I'm never in the fucking center, but I'm fighting my way into the center.
Right.
And as I fight my way into the center, and as I fucking punch and kick down all of those doors, I don't close the door. I leave it open, and I pull my people with me, because that's what we have to do. We need to be in the fucking writers' rooms when they're writing our characters. We have to be.
Yeah.
We have to be behind the lens as directors. So I understand that representation matters on screen, but it matters behind the screen. It starts with the fucking writers.
Right.
It starts with development. I am developing my own show about me. I'm not gonna fucking leave it to somebody else to get it right.
Right.
Like at one point someone was like, do you want to pair with a writer to write your memoirs? Like for fucking what? To teach somebody to talk like Sophia Chang? Why? Look, are there millions of writers better than me? Yeah, and a whole bunch of them are my closest friends. But that's not what it's about.
Right.
Right? My memoir is about two things. One, my unique story. Two, my singular voice. You rob me of my voice, you rob me of my power. So why would I do anything unless it has the truth of my voice? That's what's really important. So tell your story.
Wow. Well, let's take a quick break on that because we're going to come back and do some games that are
Okay.
just a little quick stuff. And
Okay.
so we'll be right back on the Culture Dome on Young Boss Media. We're going to play some games, the conspiracy theory games, and we're going to play a game called Who Said It.
Okay. Oh,
to see
God.
if you could guess
There's
who
no way I'm
of the
gonna get that.
Wu-Tang gang
There's-
said the quotes.
There's no way I'm going to get that.
Well, we're gonna try. So we'll see you soon here on Young Boss Media. Welcome back to the Culture Dome. So we're getting ready to play some games with our girl Sophia Chang. The first of which is obviously to highlight the genius that is the Wu-Tang Clan individually, right? I feel like the individual members don't get enough shine.
Yes.
So we're gonna throw out a quote. You're gonna try to guess who said the quote.
Okay.
Right? And hopefully, right, you can respect
mean,
respect some of the quotes.
I just want to caveat this by saying I am not a Wu-Tang Clan expert in terms of knowing every lyric, knowing every sample, knowing every song,
Yeah.
knowing every B-side. Where I claim to be an expert of Wu-Tang Clan is simply the people that they are to me.
Right. So
Do you know
most
what I'm
of these are
saying?
not
But
even
that's-
lyrics.
Oh,
they're just
they're
going to
just
be
shit that they said?
random crap that they've said.
Okay.
Some of them are lyrics because some of the lyrics are just hilarious, and
Okay.
I want to throw in a
Okay.
couple of things that you might have heard before. So it's not meant to be too pressurized. This
Okay.
is not going to be like a rap genius session right now. Okay, so we're going to play the game. Which Wu said it? I'm sure that this is going to be good because
Okay.
there's so many good quotes from
Great.
all
well,
these
yeah,
folks.
I mean, they're amazing.
Okay, so the first quote is, "Don't wait until you die to go to heaven."
No, I have no idea. Don't wait until you die to go to heaven. That sounds like something RZA would say.
It is something RZA said. So the next quote is, "Rap is a gimmick, but I'm for the hip hop, the culture."
Rap is a gimmick, but I'm for the hip hop, the culture. That sounds like either Ghost or Ray.
It's Method Man.
Oh, math, yay.
I know. It wasn't an easy one to find, but I dug it out there. So this quote is, "Do I let my children listen to my music? Of course I do. Shoot, the worst curse is a lie."
Wow. Do I love my children? Of course I do. Listen to the music. The worst curse.
No, he
is
said, "Do I let my children listen to my music?"
Oh, do I let my children listen
listen to my music? Right. So
And
this is from an interview.
And what's the rest of it?
"Do I let my children listen to my music? Of course I do. Shoot, the worst curse is a lie."
Whew. That could be Ghost or Ray.
So that was ODB.
Oh, God bless his soul.
God bless him.
Right.
Rest in peace.
Very cool.
So this is, I'm going to try to say this slowly so I get it right. Supercalifragilistic expialidocious. Docious alley expifragilistic cali super. Cancun, catch me in my room eating grouper.
Is that Ghost?
That's close.
Yeah, catch me eating grouper. That could only be Ghost.
So the next quote is, "As long as your cats is loyal to what y'all are standing for and they know how to play the game, it should be no way you can lose. It's about compromising. It's about respecting one another's position and about going with your heart as far as what you believe in."
Is that Ray?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's very
Sounds
Quan.
like something Ray would say, yeah.
And so the next quote is, "I'm always touching plants and vibing with them."
Jizza. Yeah.
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 I'm Sinatra. I'm Frank Sinatra in disguise.
Huh, I'm Frank Sinatra in disguise. Is that Deck or Killer?
That's you, God.
That's Yui? Okay.
So the next one is, "Leave it up to me while I be living proof to kick the truth to the young black youth."
That's Deck and Cream.
Of course,
Yeah.
just wanted to say it.
It's my favorite hip hop song.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite songs of all time.
That was
period.
just really
Yes.
You know, I already knew. So what about, "I can stay dip like the first day of school"?
I can stay dip like the first day. Is that Ray?
Kappa.
Cap. Yes,
Capadonna.
of course.
So I never really liked meat. I was a child that had to be forced to eat meat. Whatever you ate before that you love, like turkey slices, they got a substitute now that's not hard to find.
Is that RZA or
That's-
Jizza?
Master Killer.
Killer too?
Yeah.
Is he a vegan too?
He must be now. That's a recent one.
They're so healthy.
They're all
so much
healthy?
healthier than me. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's the last one. You actually did pretty well.
Thank you.
So, you know, you knew more than you thought you knew on that one. So this is the last game that we're going to play is a staple
Okay.
of this show.
Okay.
It's called the conspiracy theory game. And we call this the conspiracy theory game.
Okay.
So the way it works is kind of like two truths and a lie. I'm going to tell you 2 things that are actually facts but sound like conspiracies. Which 2 are true and which one is completely made up. So it's much like 2 truths and a lie.
Okay.
2 of these things are true. One of them is just a conspiracy that's been roaming around the internet somewhere.
Okay.
And so we're going to ask which ones you think are the true ones and which one you think is just a conspiracy.
Okay.
Okay, so the first story here on the conspiracy theory game is that burglars in Miami lifted $2 million worth of body-shaping faja undergarments. I don't know if you've heard of these. They're like almost like garters or Spanx.
Okay.
Right, so like the undergarments that you put underneath your clothes that the Kardashians wear and all of them to keep their stuff tight.
Okay.
So they cut a hole through the concrete roof, shimmied down into a warehouse, and sold $2 million or 34,000 pairs of high-end fajas from a store. So that's conspiracy number 1.
Right.
Conspiracy number 2 is that they did an experiment to see what playing music to cheese would do to it, like which ones would taste the best. And they found out that hip-hop produced the tastiest cheese, and they played it A Tribe Called Quest. This is a special one for you.
Wow.
And it turned out to produce the best tasting cheese.
There you go.
And so the last thing is that Nancy Pelosi, right, our good old Nancy Pelosi, who's in office right now, Speaker of the House, diverted $2.4 billion from Social Security to cover the investigation into impeachment. So one of these is false. 2 of them are true. Which one do you think?
I think the Pelosi one is false.
You think that's false? That is false. However, it is one of the top shared stories on Facebook right now this week. So everybody, Nancy Pelosi did not divert money from your grandma or from anybody else. $2.4 billion is safe in Social Security where it was. Yeah. It'll still run out, but it is not because of that. And so thank you for playing the conspiracy theory game. That means that indeed 2 burglars did lift $2 million worth of body-shaping undergarments.
That is amazing to me, and
Miami.
I love that A Tribe Called Quest.
And Tribe Called Quest did produce the tastiest cheese in an experiment in Switzerland.
I hope the song was Can I Curdle It?
Anyway, either way, their energy is right.
It's brilliant.
Their energy is producing delicious
I hope they know
results. And so, right, I don't know how they could find out, but if you know a way to get the information to them, let them know the Swiss have found out.
That's amazing.
Their cheese is making it the most poppin' cheese. And so, on that note, a lighter note than we started on, so I'm glad we ended here with a smile. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And please let people know where they can find you and where they can sort of learn more about what's going on, and even where they can listen to The Baddest Bitch in the Room out now. So
the memoir can be found on Audible, only on Audible. The t-shirts are at bonfire.com/baddestbitch. I am on Twitter at Soph Chang, and I am on Facegram and Instabook at Soph Chang NYC, SOPHCHANG Instagram is really the platform where I live. That's my most robust platform, for sure.
Amazing. Your life sounds incredible. I'm so glad that we had this talk today. I'm so glad we got to meet.
It.
And you can find the first lady, the first Asian woman of hip hop and the baddest bitch in the room on Instagram and on Audible. Listen now.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching the Culture Dome on Young Boss Media. We'll see you next time.
Fantastic. My name is Sophia Chang, and I'm the baddest bitch in the room. Thanks for watching the Culture Dome on Young Boss Media. My name is Sophia Chang, and I am the baddest bitch in the room. Thank you for watching the Culture Dome on YouTube.